friends, now before you say anything, I know this is Arctic Money and this is and always will be an investing channel, but I couldn't help myself in bringing to the channel from the economics point of view also my biggest passion, my biggest addiction throughout my life, which is obviously football, also Arsenal club in a way, but this video will be about football, not about Arsenal. I played football my whole life since I was young. I would like to say between the ages of 14 and 18 I was dreaming of becoming a professional, and I did train like one pretty much every day. But eventually I came to the realization that probably I will not be the next Cristiano Ronaldo. I don't have those skills. So I switched my focus eventually to education and studies. But still, football has always been a huge part of my life, and I feel like I wanted to do a video on it, and I feel that this will be a good one for everybody, so let's check it out. So, this is where football meets economics. We start off with the book summary of Soccernomics, a great book on soccer, on football, whichever you want to use, and economics and everything related to it. The only book I've read twice in my life, I guess. After this book summary, we will take a look at football from investing perspective, but now we have lots to cover in this must-read book for any football fan, for a person that considers investing in football or sports, or just for a person who wants to learn more on football and economics together and to impress your friends and family who are football fans. We have lots to cover, so let's go. So, the book is called Soccernomics and it was published in 2015. I read the book in Finnish, but surely the international edition is identical. The authors. Simon Kuper is rewarded English football journalist, and Stefan Szymanski is a scholar specialized in sports management and economics and is a professor at University of Michigan. The structure of this summary mainly follows the order of topics presented in the book itself. The headlines for subsections in this summary were invented by me. The topics I chose to present in this summary are purely the ones that I myself found the most interesting ones. I might have, for example, skipped some parts that I thought were too much of common knowledge among football fans, so the summary is made from a perspective of a football fan who has also played the game himself. On player transfers. Transfer fees correlate poorly with success. Paid salaries correlate strongly with success. It is not the big salaries, obviously, that make players play better, but big salaries attract better players. That is how this functions. Statistically, salaries explain 90% of clubs' success, 10% caused by other factors. First thought that came to my mind from this was that coaches seem to be pretty unimportant, right? Well, Gerard Houllier and Rafa Benitez spent huge amounts of cash acquiring players at their time in Liverpool with very poor results. In the end, it turned out that the best players in those Liverpool teams were Michael Owen, Jamie Carragher and Steven Gerrard, all juniors raised at Liverpool. Best player bought from outside the club came from Dutch Willem II, a centre-back who was the leader of the defence for a decade and a captain of Liverpool, Finnish Sami Hyypiä. Hyypiä's transfer fee was laughably low, 3.6 million euros. For comparison, let's list few other Liverpool signings from that time. El Hadji Diouf, 15 million euros, Salif Diao, 7.5 million euros, Bruno Cheiro, 6.5 million euros, Djibril Cissé, 20 million euros, Fernando Morientes, 9.25 million euros, and Robbie Keane, 24 million euros. Liverpool back then is a perfect example of a club where paid transfer fees really did not correlate with success. As said, success correlates poorly with transfer market activity, but much better with paid salaries. Still, if a team must go on shopping spree, the authors offer a checklist how to do the buying at least with some sense of profitability if money still is a scarce resource for the club in question. Here is the list as a recap. 1. New manager always wants to spend money on transfers. Do not let him do that. He will sell current players for too low and buy new players too high to make the team look like his team. 2. Take use of wisdom of groups. Do not let one person alone make important decisions. 3. Stars of World Cups or Euros are overpriced. Do not touch them. People give too much weight in decision making always to most recent events. 4. Certain nationalities like Brazilians are overpriced. Go rather for Bolivian or Belarusian footballers. 5. Older players are overpriced. 6. Strikers are overpriced, goalkeepers underpriced. 7. Identify and reject every prejudice relating to how a player looks. Handsome players are not better players than funny-looking ones. 8. Buy someone who is 20 to 24 years old, best value for money, many good years ahead, but already has proven his skills and is not just a promising young player or the next Messi or the next Ronaldo. Allegedly. 9. Always know how many dollars one of your players is worth. If someone gives you an offer higher than that, sell every time. 10. Replace your best players before they leave. Anticipate who are the most likely to leave and find replacement proactively. 11. Buy players who have problems in their personal lives and help them to overcome those problems. These players can be bought with discounts. Money does not help in battling addiction or depression. Help only helps. And finally, 12. Once you buy a new player, make them feel like home from day one and help them and their families to settle down. Player needs to be able to focus only on football, not suffer from settling into a new country, city or culture. Once again, money does not make homesickness go away. Settling in and finding new friends helps. Football is small business. The authors argue that with football clubs one cannot make profit long term, or at least it is extremely difficult. And they also argue that maybe nobody should even try. Football is also very small business. In 2013, Real Madrid's revenue was 520.9 million euros. This was the biggest revenue any club in any sport had ever had at the time. Finnish analyst Matias Möttölä calculated that if Real Madrid would be a company in Finland, how big would Real Madrid be when ranking among all Finnish companies? Finland is a country with no significant natural resources except wood, and we were 5.4 million people back in 2013. What would be Real Madrid's ranking among Finnish companies? In top 10? In top 30? In top 3? Make your guess now. Real Madrid would have been in 2013 Finland's 120th biggest company by revenue. Real Madrid is not a big company and neither is any other football team. Profit we cannot use as a measurement with football clubs because most of them do not make any profit and cannot pay any sort of dividends to their shareholders. Most of football clubs are awful businesses. Although clubs continue to grow, in 2012 the average revenue of a Premier League club was just short of $190 million. You should not compare a Premier League club to the local supermarket chain Tesco in the UK. You need to compare a Premier League club to an actual supermarket, one grocery store. In 2012, Tesco had around 20 supermarkets that each of them were making more revenue than average Premier League club in a year. Football is very small business. Manager markets discriminate and do not work efficiently. Why is a manager of a club always 35 to 60 years old white male? Every other profession should have already shown that this kind of discrimination has no grounds. Side note outside Soccernomics. Today in 2021, actually now 2022 already, there is just one black coach in Premier League, Arsenal legend Patrick Vieira at Crystal Palace. He is 10th black coach ever in Premier League. Currently 1 in 4 Premier League players are black or another ethnic minority. Clearly this is not right. Moreover, there has never been a female coach in Premier League. This is a subject we will probably return later, so let's leave it for now. Continuing from the book. There is no scientific evidence to suggest that you are a better manager if you are a man, not a woman, white, not black, or even that you are an ex-pro footballer at a high level or not. If a football manager claims you need to have played football at high level to be a successful manager, he cannot prove it because there is no evidence to suggest that. It is more likely a way for ex-player managers to try to keep everybody else away from their job market, nothing else. We will return to this subject probably too in the near future. Football and financial performance. There is no correlation to be found with clubs' financial profitability and success in the league. Exceptions still do exist. Manchester United between 1975 and 2005, before Glazers bought the club, did around $400 million of profit before taxes and won 8 league titles in that time. Impressive stuff at the time from Manchester United. In short, winning games is not a key to making profit. The very simple explanation to this is, if you are not pumping up money to buy even better players with higher salaries all the time, you cannot win games, because someone else will pump in the necessary money. Think of Manchester City or Chelsea here. What makes football even worse business is that if you do not pump the money, you lose games and you risk majority of your fans leaving your team when you keep on losing all the time. Not to even mention the devastation if a club drops down to the division from the league. Still, when it seems that it is practically impossible for shareholders to make profit with football clubs, there is another group of people who do make money in football, the players themselves. Could you be able to invest in players instead of clubs? That is an interesting thought, which we will probably also return later. It is probably better to think football clubs as non-profits, museums or charity organizations, rather than actual businesses aiming for profit. Like with non-profits, many clubs would do much better if they could even aim at break-even financial result, but sad truth is that break-even financial results like non-profits or museums aim to make is too difficult for most of the clubs, and they are loss-making and in debt. Arms race between clubs paying huge buck for best players and giving them salaries out of this world are the major reasons for being in debt and loss-making. What else you do not see happening among normal businesses but happens only in football? Competitors help each other out. If your rival gets into financial trouble, it is not uncommon to help them out. Football clubs need each other. In 1931, Orient from East London got into financial trouble and Arsenal, their rival, gave a cheque of £3,450 for Orient to be able to carry on as a club. Converting to the pound's purchasing power today, the loan in today's money was worth of £250,410. Also, I give an example now from outside Soccernomics. When Borussia Dortmund was in the brink of bankruptcy in 2003, they received a loan without collateral from their arch-rival Bayern Munich, worth of €2 million. It made more financial sense for Bayern to help out their dear number one rival than to see them disappear from football world. This would never happen in any other normal industry. To summarize, football business is much like communism. Even though most of clubs cannot make profit, they still do not go bankrupt. Someone always comes in and saves the club. People and organizations that have loaned money to the clubs do not want to kill them. What kind of a maniac would want to have the reputation of killing the most loved thing in a city? Luckily, saving football clubs do not cost much, as we already established that they are small businesses in the world of business. Like banks were too big to fail in financial crisis of 2008, football clubs seem to be too small to fail. And no matter how bad a club is and how bad their product, the team, is, they will never lose all of their customers, or in other words, their fans. There is no other industry in the world where a business can produce a bad product and survive. In football you can. For football industry to become profitable, it would need to move towards American professional sports leagues like NFL. Financial fair play rules might actually change the football industry to start looking more like a normal industry. But do we fans really want it to happen? Or do we want to see the best imaginable teams playing against each other? Think today, for example, a UEFA Champions League final between PSG and Man City, who already met at group stage twice in 2021. If football industry becomes profitable, you won't most likely see that kind of matches ever again. Personal note here. On the other hand, could investing in football become a good idea if indeed financial fair play changes the dynamics? That's a thought for the future. Importance of a manager is overrated. Unlike commonly believed, manager does not help win games, he cannot influence on that much. Strength of a good manager is keeping all stakeholders of club in line. Players, the board, fans, media and sponsors. Sacking managers all the time is very bad use of money, and that money should have been used in acquiring better players. Sacking of a manager is a weird and expensive ritual that in the end does not help the team's success much. But why does the team always seem to play better and win more after sacking the bad manager? The simple reason is that no one is sacked if the club is not losing. When you sack a manager, you have lost a bunch of games recently. It is pure statistics that after a greater number of lost games for whatever the reason was, for example bad luck, injuries, difficult opponents, or a new team having too little time to play and train together, whatever the reason, when you have already hit the rock bottom, it is natural that problems ease and the club wins more games shortly after. It really does not matter who is the manager in the end. The authors present another very interesting story of doing things differently. In 2007, Ebbsfleet United led 30,000 of its supporters after paying a fee of £35 to vote in player selections. In 2008, Ebbsfleet United won the FA Trophy, best achievement of the club so far. Okay, to be honest, maybe it was the additional money that helped the club most, but there is something fascinating in this crowdfunded model of operating a football club where fans have a say. The authors present a club that would not choose a manager to select the players for the team and games and would just trust wisdom of masses, could do well actually. What is more is that you could invest all the money saved from the manager's salary to salaries of key players for the team. This is a concept I want to return to later also. On penalty kicks and how to shoot them. Do controversial penalty kicks decide on who is the champion and who is not? Short answer is no and maybe. No, throughout a 38-game season where individual referee mistakes do not simply carry so big weight on who will be the champion, and eventually controversial penalties will even out between the teams. Maybe is the answer when we are talking about cups or playoffs in World Cups or Euros, where the number of games is so much lower. Luck is needed in cups and playoffs, but not in full season format. Also, some people make claims that this or that team gets awarded penalties more than others. This is true, but the simple reason is that better teams just end up spending more time in opponent's box, eventually resulting in more contacts in the box and more penalties. It is just statistics, no team is referee's favorite. Here is a list from the book compiled by me. What is your ideal penalty shooter like? Game theory from economics is closely linked with shooting penalties. 1. Shooter has experience and practice in taking penalties. 2. Shooter is able to control his emotions and fear. 3. Shooter understands that opposing goalkeeper has knowledge of all the prior penalties he has taken and is thus capable of shooting the ball in various different places around the net. 4. Shooter is able to randomize his decision making where to shoot the ball at any given time. No patterns can exist. Flip a coin where to shoot if necessary. Big data finally entered to football. The book dedicates a lot of pages to big data in football and how it has finally entered to the game, after being a necessity in practically all other industries in the modern world in 2000s. For what I have seen myself, I believe that during recent years usage of data in football has already turned from a competitive advantage of some clubs to necessity all competitive clubs must utilize. My belief is that all clubs have vast amounts of data available, but probably some clubs are still better in filtering it than others. Nevertheless, big data is already used widely also in football, so I won't go deeper into this topic at this time. World's most passionate football fans are in Iceland. The authors in 2015 concluded that the biggest football fans in the world are in Iceland. And this book was published before Iceland went to the Euros and the World Cup. Imagine the hype in Iceland today. Why does Iceland have the biggest fans in football? 1. 11% of the population play football. 2. 4% of the population attend football matches. And 3. In the 2010 World Cup, where Iceland did not even have a team, Iceland ranked number 1 in average viewership of the tournament, with almost 19% of the whole population watching the World Cup. By the way, number 2 in the ranking was Netherlands, with just over 16% viewership, and Netherlands went to the final, making Iceland's numbers even more impressive. Sunderland Till I Die football fan is a myth, or at least only a small minority among all football fans. When we talk about the majority of football fans, it has become evident that loyal till death do us part kind of fandom is largely a myth. Sure, there are super loyal fans who support only one club passionately through their life, but this group is small minority. Most of football fans are something else. They might have many clubs they support, or they might time to time change a club they support. Especially after 90s, football has gained many female fans who tend to a larger extent support many teams at the same time. Also, Chinese fans support largely many teams at the same time and might switch their favorite often. In addition to changing one's favorite team, the intensity of practically all types of fans vary throughout their lifetime to a great extent on how hardcore fans they are. This is pretty natural. Our lives and priorities change over time, so it is only natural that sometimes you have more energy and time to be a fan than some other times. Football prevents suicides and brings happiness. Football is a lifesaver. National unity or sense of belonging to a larger group prevents suicides. There are only 2 things in the world that can create more of those feelings than football, namely natural disasters and wars. There is a group of people that might fall to the darkness if there wasn't football bringing them light. So, for all of those who think football is just a silly game, think again. Organizing the World Cup is not financially profitable. The quality of life would almost certainly in every host country improve more if the same amount of money would have been invested in, for example, education or health. But it has been proven also that being a host country does create happiness in the host country. Sadly, though statistically only to a large extent among male population. To summarize, politicians who only talk about how organizing of the World Cup bring money to the host country and is financially a good decision are either lying or have done their numbers wrong. An honest politician who wants to get the World Cup to his or her country should not speak about it as a business opportunity, but rather as a big party everybody is invited and will also be paid by everybody in the nation. The real question the leaders of the countries and their citizens need to ask is this: is the World Cup going to be such a good party that we should invest in it and just have fun together? Countries like South Africa and Brazil should not have organized World Cups. They could have created more happiness and wealth for their nations by investing that capital to something better like education and health. On the other hand, for example, UK might benefit from throwing the party called World Cup from the happiness perspective. England does not lose anymore, and it is thanks to foreign players in the Premier League. There is a number of people who have claimed England has not been good because there are too many foreigners in the Premier League. This is just pure nonsense. The authors have proven that actually the greater number of excellent foreign players in the Premier League has only helped the fewer Englishmen in the league to become even better. So, the more great foreign players play in the Premier League, the better the England national team will become. I would personally like to say that after publishing of this book in 2015, England's national team and the way they play has been much better than ever before. As an evidence, please have a look at the last Euros where England was denied the championship against Italy only on penalties. England has a great generation of players right now and has a chance to win the championship every time in the near future. If English fans want to thank someone, thank all the foreign talent in the Premier League. International football and how Spain chose democracy, gained access to the network and became number one. The authors have found out in the book which countries have overachieved or underperformed in the international stages in history. This is done after finding 3 factors that correlate positively to success in international football. The factors are 1. Population of the country. 2. Income per citizen or GDP. 3. Experience on international matches. These 3 factors alone can explain a bit over 25% of the results of any match. Of course, 75% is explained by other factors, but 1/4 is already pretty significant amount. Also, we can add that home field advantage is a 4th significant factor to take into account in any given match. In absolute terms, the best countries in European football when using winning percentages between 1990 and 2010 were: first, Spain, 73.8% win. 2. France, 72.9% win. 3. Italy, 69% win. 4. Germany, 68.9% win. And 5. Croatia, 68.7% win. When you bring into the equation the effects of population size, wealth of a nation, and experience in international games, the top 5 most overachieved football countries of Europe, when taken into account their resources, are: first, Spain; second, Czech Republic; third, Netherlands; fourth, Portugal; and fifth, Croatia. Congratulations, Spain, unarguably the greatest national team between 1990 and 2010. In the book you can find all European countries in this overachieving or underperforming ranking. Personally, it was fun list to evaluate which of the underperformers of 1990 to 2010 have stepped their game up after 2010. I would highlight 2 countries that have definitely started to match their potential after 2010, and those countries are Belgium and Iceland. Numbers to evaluate countries outside Europe are a bit more unreliable and difficult, but the authors still highlight one surprising overachiever who could be surprise-ready challenger for European countries, if it can take care of its problems outside football fields first: Iraq. Remember Iraq in the future once the country's situation improves. What was it then that was behind Spain's success between 1990 and 2010? What is vital for success is to be within the network of Western European football knowledge. Western Europe is for football what Silicon Valley is for big tech. When Franco's dictatorship fell in Spain, Spain gained access to the network. This is how Spain's win percentage developed. In the 80s it was 61%, in the 90s it was 71%, and in 2000s it was 81%. Networks are key for coaching knowledge and ideas to spread and for constant development. I would claim same applies to business and nations. There's a reason why North Korea is not known for their amazing technological capabilities. They are outside all the important networks. During 1980 and 2010, Spain's wealth, population and experience on international matches grew constantly, already predicting what future hold for Spanish football. 2008 they won the Euros in Austria, Switzerland. 2010 they won the World Cup in South Africa, and again Euros in 2012 in Ukraine, Poland. 2020 in the Euro, Spain was in the semi-finals. Also in 2020-2021 Nations League, Spain ranked second only behind Italy. In short, the success Spain has enjoyed starting 2008 is no surprise, it was predictable. As globalization of everything continues, there is a possibility we see surprising winners in the World Cup in the future. Early signs have already showed themselves that when a Western European coach has been given a chance to revolutionize a non-Western European team, success can be achieved. Examples of such include Otto Rehhagel with Greece's surprising win of Euros in 2004, and the Dutch cosmopolite coach Guus Hiddink. Hiddink has achieved success with countries such as South Korea in 2002 Home World Cup with 4th place, Australia through to the playoff stages in Germany's World Cup 2006. Last time Australia even qualified for World Cup was in 1974, funnily also in Germany. And with Russia in 2008 Euros, taking the Russian team through to semi-finals after beating the Netherlands in the quarter-finals. That must have been painful for the Dutch football fans. Something else supports the chances of non-Western European countries too. When we look at few recent World Cups, in 2006 Western European countries lost only one game to teams outside Western Europe, and that was also on penalty kicks. In 2010 Western Europe lost 6 games, and in 2014 lost 7 games. Is this a trend? Well, I took a look at 2018 World Cup too, and if this is a trend, we at least saw a little bit of backlash in 2018. Western European teams lost only 4 games in the tournament. We will see where the trend line continues in Qatar 2022 with Western Europe versus everybody else. Now that we have established that population, wealth and experience determine significant part of success, what countries can we expect in the future to challenge Western Europe? The authors claim it is United States of America, Japan and China. They are soon, if not already today, more potential challengers than any African countries, at least United States of America or Japan, I might add. In the new world, distance from Western Europe is no longer keeping footballing countries away from success, only poverty is. Can football be bigger than this? Yes. And finally, the best bits from the closing words by the authors. During the last 30 years, sports has been the most rapidly growing subsection of entertainment industry, and football is the most rapidly growing sport inside it. There is still huge financial potential left for football as an industry. Football has only begun to enter to societies in China, India, USA and Indonesia, where 45% of the world's population live. Football is still on growing phase also in Japan, Canada and Australia. The authors predict that in order to accelerate the growth, Champions League will in the future cut some lower level teams and replace them with champions of United States of America, China and Japan. Financially, this should make sense. The role of Major League Soccer remains a question mark. Could MLS be the #1 league in the future instead of Premier League in England? Closing words by me. So now you know much more about football than before watching this video, hopefully. Go and impress your football fan friends and family with your knowledge now. Obviously I highly recommend reading the whole book, which has much more in it and lots of real life examples too on phenomena discussed in this video. This video will be kind of theoretical background on what I'm planning to do next, actually seeing how to invest in football and whether there is money to make in the world's biggest sport. We will have a look at some publicly listed football clubs for sure and see whether owning one could make us richer. I have few more video ideas also on other subjects relating to this, but need to do a little bit more research first to see whether there is something interesting to share with you guys. Stay tuned, subscribe to the channel and hit that alarm notification bell to not miss any on these videos once I publish them. And last final thing, for those of you interested in my stock and ETFs portfolio, I made a small transaction today, the same day I'm filming this Soccernomics video on 13th of January. I sold my ETF positions in the United States of America focused ETF and the UK focused ETF, just one of the smallest positions in my portfolio. I just wanted to have those in cash for now. These two positions do belong to my monthly investment ETF basket, so I will be continuing in investing in these two ETFs also in the future, also in the coming months. But for now, the little money I had in the two positions has now been converted to cash. Just wanted to say this until here in the end, and now it's bye-bye. Bye.